For 20 years, if you said robot vacuum, you were really just saying Roomba. iRobot didn't just invent a product, they literally created the entire category, born straight out of the labs at MIT. They were the king, no question. But here's the thing about tech. The fall from the top is fast and it is brutal. So how did the undisputed king of robot vacuums end up losing its crown? Let's get into it.
Just look at this number. Not too long ago, back in 2021, iRobot was on top of the world. At its absolute peak, the company was valued at over $3.5 billion. It was a giant of American innovation, with a Roomba quietly cleaning millions of homes across the globe. But that peak, well, it was hiding a cliff.
Because today, that iRobot is gone. Just gone. Swallowed whole by its own manufacturer. So how on earth does a company that defined a market, a brand that's a household name, go from a multi-billion-dollar giant to a total collapse in just a couple of years? That's the story we need to unpack.
Okay, so the first real crack in the armor, it wasn't about money. It was about technology. It all came down to a single, huge bet the company made on how its robots should see the world. And it was a bet they ended up losing, big time.
So this is where it all started. iRobot went all in on cameras, using a tech called V-SLAM. Think of it this way. They basically gave their vacuums eyes. Which is cool, right? But eyes need light to work. They're pretty useless in the dark. Now their competitors, mostly in China, they bet on something different. LiDAR. Lasers. They gave their vacuums a bad sonar, pinging lasers to create a perfect map of the room, whether it was day or night. At first LiDAR was expensive, but that price was dropping fast. So iRobot bet on the eye, and everyone else bet on the laser.
And you can see the result of that one bet right here. By 2025, competitors like Roborock had that amazing laser navigation. They had these super advanced mopping systems that iRobot just couldn't touch, and way more power. At the same time, Shark came in from the bottom, offering pretty similar features for half the price. So iRobot was getting squeezed from both sides. They weren't the best anymore, and they sure weren't the cheapest.
On top of that, they were slow. Fatally slow. While the competition was popping out new, better models every 6 to 9 months, iRobot was stuck in a nearly 2-year cycle. They were just getting lapped. But a bad tech bet and being slow, that's bad. But it doesn't usually bankrupt a company on its own. There had to be a knockout blow. So what was it?
Well, while the tech was stumbling, the money situation was about to completely implode. The knockout blow was a nasty 1-2 punch, a massive deal that fell apart at the last second, and a mountain of debt that turned into a death sentence.
Just wow. Look at these numbers. In one single year, their revenue collapsed by almost 25%. People weren't just buying fewer Roombas, they were actively choosing the faster, better, cheaper options from other companies. The company was in an absolute freefall.
And this right here shows you just how bad it got. By late 2025, iRobot wasn't just losing money, it was hemorrhaging it. Huge operating losses. But the real killer is that last line, cash on hand. They had less than $25 million in the bank. For a company this size, that's basically nothing. They were running on fumes with no way to pay the bills.
Now, this was supposed to be their big rescue. In 2022, Amazon swoops in and offers to buy them for $1.7 billion. Amazing, right? But to stay afloat during the long, painful regulatory review, iRobot had to take on $200 million in debt. And then, disaster. Regulators in Europe blocked the deal. Amazon walked away, and sure, they paid a breakup fee, but that was just a drop in the ocean. iRobot was left at the altar with no savior, and now a crushing $200 million debt it had no way to pay.
And that's exactly when the predators smelled blood in the water. With iRobot on its knees, bleeding cash, its own manufacturer, a huge Chinese company called Picea, saw its chance for a brilliant and totally ruthless takeover.
They used this classic Wall Street move called a loan-to-own strategy. But this time, it wasn't a bank doing it. It was an industrial company. Imagine this. The company that builds your product for you, your main supplier, suddenly becomes your bank. So first, they control how your product gets made. Then, they control your money. And then, they control you. It's a killer move.
And Picea pulled it off perfectly. Step 1. They went and bought that $200 million loan iRobot had. Poof! Picea is now iRobot's main banker. Step 2. iRobot already owed Picea over $160 million just for making the Roombas in the first place. So now Picea had them in a vice grip. They squeezed from both sides.
as the bank and as the supplier, leaving iRobot with zero choice but to hand over the keys to the entire company just to wipe the debt clean.
And just like that, the manufacturer, the company that was building Roombas in the background for years, now owned the whole brand. A complete flip of the power dynamic. But the story doesn't end there. Not even close. Because this isn't just a business deal anymore. It's about to become an issue of national security. All right, now we get to the really wild part. See, this isn't like buying a company that makes toasters. This is about buying a company whose main product is making a detailed map of the inside of millions and millions of American homes. And yeah, the US government has a big problem with that.
This is the question, isn't it? Your Roomba isn't just a vacuum cleaner, it's a little rolling spy. It creates these incredibly detailed floor plans of your house. It knows where all your furniture is, it learns your family's daily habits. So, who exactly do you want holding on to those maps?
And here's why Washington is freaking out. Those maps could be of the homes of military generals or senators or Silicon Valley CEOs. And here's the kicker. China has a law from 2017 that says the government can force any Chinese company, like Peaches, to hand over any data it has, no questions asked. That kind of information would be an absolute goldmine for spying or blackmail. And that's why this deal has to be reviewed by a very powerful, very secretive government group called CFIUS.
And it's not like this is new. There's a clear pattern of them stepping in. CFIUS is the same group that forced the Chinese owner of the dating app Grindr to sell it because of blackmail risks. They're the ones who said okay to the sale of a battery maker, but only after walling off all its military contracts. And of course, there's TikTok, ordered to keep all US user data physically on American soil. The writing's on the wall for Roomba.
So, after all this drama, the bad tech bets, the financial collapse, the geopolitical chess match, what does this actually mean for the Roomba brand, for the little robot that might be cleaning your living room as we speak?
Well, the new iRobot is going to be a totally different animal. Picea is a manufacturer. Their entire world is about speed and efficiency. So you can expect much faster product launches to keep up with Roborock and way more aggressive prices to compete with Shark. And how will they do that? Massive cost cutting. That probably means goodbye to most of iRobot's American engineering and marketing teams. The focus is shifting away from that MIT-style innovation and towards pure industrial scale. But here's the real sad risk in all of this. The Roomba name, a brand people trusted for quality and American ingenuity, could just become a sticker slapped onto generic, lower-quality robots made in Shenzhen. It's in danger of becoming a zombie brand. You recognize the name, but the original soul and quality are long gone. Think about what happened to other iconic brands like Kodak or Polaroid. And that, at the end of the day, is the heart of the story. The original soul of iRobot, that big, exciting dream from MIT about creating helpful robot companions for our homes, it's gone. It's been replaced by the cold, hard, industrial efficiency of the world's factory floor. An American robotics pioneer was basically eaten by its own supply chain.
And so the whole saga of Roomba's fall leaves us with a much bigger question. Our homes are filling up with smart devices that can see, hear, and map our most private spaces. And as that happens, we really have to stop and ask ourselves, who are we handing the keys to? And do we really trust where those keys will end up?